So now we're going to talk about Chapter 11, organizational structure and controls. We're starting to bring all of the principles of strategic management studies together in this lesson and talk about how do we structure an organization based on our strategic plan, where we're at in the marketplace, our business level structure, our competitive analysis, and how do we measure and monitor that. So that's really the overview of these concepts. So first, let's talk about organizational structure and controls in general. Research evidence suggests that performance declines when a firm's strategy is not matched with the most appropriate structure and controls. We know that organizational structure essentially specifies the functions that have to be completed so the firm can implement its strategy. So that's really an important part of how we structure an organization and define who does what. Organizational structure is how we formally have formal reporting of relationships, who reports to who, how do we get work done, what are the relationships between how one department and another gets that work done, what procedures are in place, and how do we measure and control those activities. It refers to who has authority, who has decision-making power. Helping a firm effectively cope with environmental uncertainty is really an important contribution because the organizational structure helps a firm seek to figure out how to implement its strategy and how to outperform its competitors. So a couple of things that are important are structural stability. That refers to the idea of what's the capacity the firm requires to consistently and predictably manage daily work. So how stable is the processes, the relationships, the structure within the organization in order to sustain stability. Flexibility, in the term of structural flexibility, makes it possible for us to identify opportunities and then allocate resources to pursue them so that we can be successful. And how nimble are we and how flexible are we? We can modify those two elements within an organization, but we really need to see how we really need to understand how work is getting done and where's the inertia. And if we change the structure, then what will be the consequences of that and opportunities of that? So organizational controls guide the use of strategy. It indicates how to compare actual results, which with our expected results, it would be like setting a goal and measuring whether we met it or not. It suggests corrective actions to take when the difference is unacceptable. What do we do when we don't meet those expectations? We can actually successfully exploit our competitive advantage we cannot really successfully compete without controls and knowing why we're getting done what we get done. So organizational structure specifies the firm's formal reporting relationships, the procedures, controls, authority. We already talked about that. Organization controls guide the use of strategy, indicate how to compare actual and expected results, and provides a proper match between strategy and structure so that we have effective organizational control. So there are two different types of controls within an organization, strategic and financial. The use of strategic controls, which are really behavioral in nature, require high level of cognitive diversity among the firm's high-level managers. So cognitive diversity is a term that captures differences among the top-level executives regarding their beliefs about cause and effect. We want diversity so that we can have differing viewpoints. When we have too much of the same ideals and we have less cognitive diversity, then we actually can find ourselves in situations where we're kind of in a bubble. I've talked about that a lot with business owners and leaders. Make sure you're outside your bubble Don't only surround yourself with people who tell you what you want to hear, that agree with you. You don't want groupthink. You really need people who challenge you and kind of push the envelope in order to see what other people are really doing, or else we find ourselves in this really kind of space of ignorance and illusion. So when we talk about strategic control, we're talking about the difference in what a firm can do, might do based on our the competitive environment we're in, and what it can do based on our internal resources, the fit. If you remember back early in the semester, to the fit between external and internal analysis. When we talk about financial controls, we're largely really talking about how to measure firms' performance against our quantitative standards. What were our goals? All the things that you see here that you study in financial management accounting courses. What's our return on investment? What are our return on assets? And what's the economic value added to the organization? The financial controls are emphasized when companies are using a cost leadership strategy, because if you remember back to business level strategies, cost leader strategy means I have to be really careful. I don't have a lot of leeway in my profit margin, so I have to be really careful about my internal controls. And strategic controls are more emphasized by companies using differentiated strategies where we know that we have to compete at a high level in order to get the customers that are looking for a differentiation and not so concerned with cost leader factors. So strategy and structure have a very reciprocal relationship. In general, structure flows from or follows selection of the firm's strategy. So once in place, though, a structure can influence the current strategic actions as well as drive decisions about the future. Overall, the effect of strategy on structure is stronger than the effect of structure on strategy. I'm going to say that again. Strategy impacts structure. When I know what I'm trying to accomplish, then I will organize my people and my how the work gets done differently based on that strategy. I'll talk about that more as we look at more specific ideals around organizational structure coming up next.